Hey, 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 hey. Y'all know what it is. It is Tuesday, and that means it is Robe Chronicle Tuesday. We're going to have an amazing conversation tonight. I have some very, very special guests with me tonight, my brothers, and can't wait to introduce them. But in the meantime, before we get there, please, ma'am, sir, children, cat, dog, whatever you are watching the show tonight, please like and share and follow us on YouTube and Facebook. We greatly appreciate that. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, if you have a topic that you want to render to us to talk about, please email those to us at robechronicles@gmail.com. So, as stated, I have some special guests with me tonight. My brother Leanza Stockley, all the way from Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
And my brother, my Bill. If you hear me say Bill, that's how we talk, but my Bill, David L. Lester Massey, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey.
Yes,
Good to be
indeed, y'all.
here.
We excited. I'm so excited to have this conversation and bring this conversation to the table. So the topic tonight is the Black man and mental health. So a very, very strong and needed conversation and topic. But before we do that, Leanza, introduce yourself. Tell us all about you. Then after that, David, take the floor.
I am Leanza Stockley. I'm a certified relationality specialist, master's degree in counseling and all of that stuff. Author of a couple of books. There's a couple of them out there. And that's it, man. I'm a friend. I'm a friend to those that need a friend. Some of
I love it.
them.
You can't be everybody's friend.
I'm only so big. I'm only so, you know what I mean? I only got so much capacity.
Ah, I love it.
You're
And
an idiot.
brother Bill.
I did that to set him up. Like,
Oh my goodness. Yes. Good. I'm so glad I'm in the number of friends. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it. But yes, I am David L. Lester Massey. Been in the field of public health for over 10 years. And my specific niche in public health is those who are living with and loving others who are living with HIV/AIDS. So that is the thing that I love to do. That is the messaging that I speak the most about. Most people like to shy away from those conversations. But I think there's a way to have every conversation as long as everything is on the up and up and everything is, um, if you're disclosing, knowing when and where and how to disclose whatever you're going through. And the mental health component definitely plays a part with us. So yeah,
Nah,
fortunate to be here.
absolutely. Well, y'all listen. Y'all already know what this is gonna give. We're gonna jump right in. We're gonna tell the truth tonight. We're gonna give some information. And again, the topic is the Black man and mental health. So let me preface this, everybody, to let you know where this topic even came from, right? And so it the topic comes from actually a friend of mine and a business colleague of mine who was in the event industry, planning event industry as I am. And so before I say this, I do feel like, and Leanza and David and I have already talked, and we feel like mental health is something that you got to handle with care, right? As well as other topics that we discuss, you got to handle with care. So before I give this information, the young lady who brought this topic to us, her name is D. Lachey. She is a Nashville native. I did talk to D. Lachey because she brought this topic to me because of something that happened to her brother. He dealt with mental illness and mental health. And so I wanted to, like I said, be diligent and be sensitive. And I called her and I had a conversation with her last night, got her permission to share this information just before I, just put it out there and not do that and honor that. So I always want to walk in integrity, right? So
Absolutely.
she bought the conversation because her brother, actually both of her brothers dealt with mental health, but her brother that she just lost, he was dealing with mental illness and maybe some mental illness of schizophrenia, depression, and he decided to take his life. And he did so by laying on the train track and waiting on the train to take him away. And so, from a woman's perspective, just trying to help her understand what that looks like from from men, right, and what that looked like from or trying to help men be better in mental health. And it's a hard thing, right? I don't think it's easy, especially for men folk, to really be vulnerable to say, I need somebody to talk to. I may need a therapist, or I want to go to counseling. And like, what is that, y'all? Let's just dive into it. What is that?
I think first I think it's very important working with a couple of doctors, one being a licensed clinical psychologist. One thing is to preface the conversation in its totality, that everybody has mental health, but not everybody is mentally ill. So it's very important that we understand what that means and what that looks like and how that shows up. It is not necessarily what we see on television, on movies. We all deal with a level of our mentality that needs to be healthy, and what that looks like is very different from person to person. But I think for men especially, and men of color, we have a hard time because from a very young age, we're taught, even when we express an emotion, that we're supposed to do the opposite. We're supposed to feel it, but express it the opposite way of what we're feeling. Yeah. And so if we're hurt and we cry because we're hurt, that is the response. We're told big boys don't cry. So we learn that very early on, that we can't feel. It's not that we don't feel, we're taught not to feel. Yeah. And how do you then grow up and try to matriculate through life when everybody that is around you that is supposed to love you, especially our female counterparts? Because it usually starts with our moms. Yeah. It usually starts there, because they're the ones that are probably trying to run the household, even if the dad is there. Let me be very clear. Even if the father is in the home, the mom is usually the one that's working with and dealing with the children, because that's what we've seen. That's what we know. That's what's portrayed on everything that we see. So if the mom is dealing with the kid and they're dealing with usually more than just the child, then the first thing they're going to say is, okay, you're a distraction and I need the distraction to stop so I can continue to do something else that I need to get off my to-do list. So as the kid, especially as a male growing up, it's like, how do I want to tell you what's going on, but either I'm too young and I don't have the language to do so, or even if I'm of an age where I should be able to have the language, I've never been taught the appropriate language, so I act out. So I show it in a different way that shows up very differently from a way it may show up in our female counterparts. So if there are any moms watching who are raising young boys, let them feel now. Because if you don't, later on, when they get an adult and then somebody else got to tell them what to do, they ain't gonna know how to handle it.
Yep. And Bill, you said something so key that I think that messes with starting from a young kid, a man's or a boy's psyche into a man, is that, especially this is for all the fathers who are present, you can be present but not present
at the same time.
And that's a whole nother lie. Leanza, what's your take on the Black men and mental health?
I think like what he's saying is like some of the way that we're conditioned to express. You can express one emotion as a Black man. It's called anger. Right? We tend to allow that to happen. Well, happiness. Let me say that too. You can be happy, but you got to be careful with that too, because if you seem too happy, then you're gonna get categorized.
Then you're gay. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
So let's pull it out. Let's pull it out.
Gay and anything else that you want to add to that. Soft, just whatever. And but the anger piece and what we don't realize is a sissy.
That's what they called
a she nanny. You ever heard of one of them?
Oh no!
That's what the Southern folks. He's
Oh, I can't. Listen. I listen. The Southern. Listen.
stuttering.
Listen, I got to pause for cause. Listen, folks. The word is Southern, not Southern. That's a whole nother live. Okay. Listen.
Woo.
Absolutely. Yes, D.
I know that's right.
We're gonna call
Call a spade a spade.
It's real.
Call a spade a spade.
It's absolutely
yeah.
real. So let me ask this question, brothers. Why is mental health an indication for weakness for men?
So I think it's not necessarily mental health; it's mental illness.
Okay,
that's the indication. It's because we're not taught that the emotional makeup of a man is a part of his health overall. We're not taught that. So when we go and get into these situations and get into relationships, have children, go to work, we're not taught that we still have to take care of, because there's a lot of guys that go to the gym to get their physical presence together and completely ignore how they feel.
Yeah.
They know if they feel tired. They know if they feel like Leandra said, they know if they feel happy or sad or I'm just okay. We're so conditioned to saying, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine. When your body is telling you a completely different story. You got high blood pressure, you're breaking out in sores and highs. You got to listen to that stuff because that's your literally your emotional makeup is saying, I need attention. And if you don't focus on it, it will hinder you.
Oh, absolutely.
It will hinder you. It will hinder you. The thing is too, I think with that, it's like we demonize emotions, right? We either demonize emotions or because you always hear people say, oh, they're so emotional, right? We say it all the time. Men like to think that we only operate from logic, and we see logic we see emotionalism as a female thing. That's what women do. That's how some of this, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Stuff. Yeah. Some of this stuff, honestly, folks, is making these things worse. When we don't put these in full context and actually explain what it really is, then you have guys that are thinking the real man is hard. He handles tough things. He goes through whatever. And we don't associate that with the emotional aspect of it. We only think of it in terms of the logical, intellectual pieces of it. So for a man to show emotion is like he being a sissy, or he being weak. It's associated with weakness. Yeah, that's more of the feminine quality. It's not the truth, because research has shown us that men are actually, if we want to really get into it, men are actually more emotional. It just comes out different. Yeah, it's displayed differently. Yeah, or more into emotionalism, I would say. Yeah, and it's just displayed differently. Yeah, but yes,
and listen to how women describe what they want in a man: tall, dark, handsome. I don't care what their nationality is, what the demographic is. That is the standard: tall, dark, handsome. They want them to be physically appealing, but they never talk about what they want their male counterpart to show up as. How do you respond when you're angry? How do you respond when something makes you think differently than you were thinking before we met? How do you respond to things that are going on, like in the spur of the moment? How do you respond? Like, you need to know those types of things. I get so discombobulated when I hear couples, because I'm so used to being around couples now, being married, right? So used to being around couples and listening to them go at each other, especially in a male-female dynamic. Yeah. And listening to how the female responds to a guy, and then they cut him off all the time. They can't get a word in edgewise. All of these dynamics are played out, but when the guy tries to even express what's going on with him, it's like you diminish his value. You diminish what he's feeling. You diminish. Oh, it's not that way. I didn't really say it like that. Why you gotta be? Why I didn't say it like that? Why you take it like that? You didn't. No, 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 no. Especially if a man really does want to open up and he really does want to talk. Because if you keep cutting him off, ladies, I'm talking to y'all now. If you keep cutting him off, that teaches him not to say anything, and so he goes silent. And so then when you do want him to talk, he's conditioned now to be silent, to
And I
not respond to you at all.
and I'm glad you
And
said
what? Yeah, yep, yep.
I'm
Go
glad
ahead.
you said that because I was talking to the young lady last night and she said something so keen, and I was like, And what she said was two things. She said one of her brothers, the other brother, asked her or made a comment. It was like, I know how I'm acting isn't right, but I don't understand why I'm acting like this. I don't mentally understand. I know how I'm responding is not right, but I'm not quite sure what's wrong with me and what's triggering me to do so. And so her comment to that was, or backstory to that was she didn't know if there's proof or scientific proof of, if people are born, with mental illnesses like, depression and stuff, if you grow into it, or back in the day, her mom put them on Ritalin, and if that caused it, and they put them on Ritalin to get a check. And I said, oh shit. I said, wait a minute, friend. And when she said that, I was like, that's heavy with a lot of weight on it.
Yeah,
Because what if
yeah,
nothing wasn't wrong
exactly. And then you just introduced it.
and you introduced it? And now you got him out here. I'm out here in these streets. I'm doing the wrong thing. And I know I'm doing the wrong thing, but what's wrong with me? What's mentally driving me this way? I said that's some heavy shit.
It's
And
heavy.
if
It's
you
heavy. But
think about those, go ahead, Leah.
no, I was gonna say that's heavy, but it's a matter of chemical. It's a matter of chemical imbalance. So if they are introducing it, because Ritalin and all this other stuff is not as dangerous as we've made it to be. All right, when done properly. All right,
Yeah.
so even if they've done it, but it's like, but again, these are types of drugs that alter the brain. They're brain medicines.
Yeah.
So they alter the brain. The brain is all about the type of chemicals that are in there, like our oxytocin, serotonin, all of these, whatever. And if there's too much of anything, it's going to cause some type of dysfunction, which is all mental. I don't want to say all mental illness is, but that's what mental illness is. It's chemical imbalances that are taking place inside of our brain. Even when we're feeling a certain way, it creates chemical. The brain is responsible for that, creating different chemicals to make us. It comes out in feeling a certain way. So you take these medications that are supposed to boost dopamine, boost serotonin, or something like that. Like would really or balance those things out, and it wasn't necessary. Then yeah, you may be feeling some type of way. But it could
Yeah.
also be a lot of other things that have come into play now that's making you feel some type of way. It's like, I know I'm not supposed to be acting like this, but I'm acting like this. But we won't go get checked out. We won't go figure out why. And
Yeah.
again, it's the stigma, but it's also not even just the stigma to it. It's also just we were taught to tough it out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tough it out or pray it out.
Oh, hold
Yeah.
that thought.
Oh,
Hold that thought.
oh,
Hold that thought, Leanna. Wait a minute. Johnny said, but sometimes things are in the bloodline and show up in other people. That's why understanding our mental health backgrounds and family is important. Absolutely,
yes,
Johnny.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
who knows that the person that said that, because it has happened multiple times in her family, the one that introduced this topic
Yeah.
altogether, then she probably needs to know what's going on in her bloodline. What has been released in her bloodline
Mm-hmm.
to make the males in her bloodline respond to things a certain kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Because some things that, when we talk about men and their resistance to understand who they are and why they do the things that they do, they shy away from words like therapy.
Yes.
Go and get you some help.
Bill, get your
Now
husband.
we have to.
Husband. I'm not
if Uncle Ray Ray crazy as hell, friend, you might be a candidate for baptism into that Ritalin club. I get it. That's my husband, y'all. I do. Yes, indeed. Oh, I try to tame him, but he don't mind me. He don't mind me. But he's absolutely right.
You're
If
right. Yeah,
if
you're
you've
right.
got some things in your bloodline, but you never speak about it, you never talk about it, you just know how you're feeling and trying to figure out and wonder. And what about the people? This is for the people that know how they are connected biologically. What about the people that are adopted?
True.
Right.
And with that,
Who may never know.
Who may never know.
We never know. And with that, David, how can we address different facets of mental health, environmental impact, childhood, adult trauma? How can we better address that?
We got to know
before you do
what's
that.
in our tool.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You also say before you say that, give the three. There's three elements that determine our mental health in that sense, and it is like the wonderful Johnny was saying on the thing. It is genetics. All right, so there's the genetics piece, there's the environmental piece, which that's my area, that's my thing. Our relationships and just the environment that we're all around, and then the last piece is just your personal temperament, your personality and your personal temperament, how they contribute to that. I think people need to know that because it is, like I said, that genetic piece is really huge. You need to be being checked out, but then also recognize how do we even get in this space of mental illness. How does it even come about? This, I almost said this SHIT, this stuff comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. And that plays into too how people actually view it, because we'll get into this probably later in the conversation, but it's kind of like we treat people that are suffering with mental illness as if it's their fault.
Oh
yes.
Can we pass the offering plate?
My God.
God. Can we pass the offering plate? Because let me tell you
something that's happening inside of them.
Yes.
To them.
Yes.
Not something that they asked for. Not something that somebody else. Sometimes it is, when it is genetic, and it's just a part of their makeup. They did nothing to deserve or to encourage or discourage it. It's just a part of who they are. Unfortunately, they were born into it. But like Johnny said, because some people have aligned themselves with people that influence their thought process. And that could be even the people that are in your own family. Unfortunately, sometimes when you get to that place of kinship, and you're trying to navigate life, depending on where you are in your stage in life, sometimes you have to really evaluate and reevaluate your connections to the people that you thought were there for you, that you thought loved you, that you, just because they're biologically connected to you doesn't necessarily mean that they make them family.
Yep.
Do you know how many people that I choose to call family?
If you can do that, because again, we have to view this from the standpoint of saying everybody's not choosing this. Right. So there's some things, again, if you have schizophrenia, that has nothing to do with who you can't even choose differently. Right. Again, we have to understand when the brain is chemically shifted in that way, this is really a sickness. Right. This is something that is really going on. And we say, well, you just need to choose it. They can't. Right. Somebody else has to come in as agency to be able to say, this is why when you go to see a mental health professional, they're going to do a thorough assessment. And we're going to look at we're not just going to look at what you tell me is the symptoms. I'm going to look at also, where did this come? Where could this possibly be coming from? This is why I want to hear your history. This is why I want to know what relationships you're in right now. This is why I want to know how things are being processed. Because one, we're relational beings. We're all influenced by something. All of us. And in some ways, we're all aligned to something that ain't that great for us.
True.
You see, we have to normalize the reality that we're all in this same boat.
Absolutely.
And then there is a space where it comes in, where we have to take responsibility when our mind is there. If our mind is not there, listen, if people are having delusions, you cannot talk them out of delusions. We have
And
to
you
do
can't
what's
pray them
necessary
out
to
of
get
it
them.
either.
You
And,
can't pray them out of them either. It's just not gonna.
and
Because
listen,
again, go ahead.
yeah, I was saying, and listen, for the person, friend, family member that may be going through that other person that's on the other side of that, you can't live in denial. You cannot
Right.
live in denial.
No,
Let's just call
Yeah.
it
not
out.
helpful.
You can't live in
Call it
denial.
out for you.
You can't.
Yeah.
Because if you live in denial, then you're not going to be able to help that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just,
And get them the
You're only
help
going
that
to
they
enable them.
actually need.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
the help that you think they need. The
Yes.
help that they actually need.
Actually.
And we a part of normalizing the parts of the conversation is, again, understanding that your mental health is just a part of your health. It really is another part of your total and overall comprehensive health. When you go to a new physical medical doctor for the first time, you fill out a whole entry form. And what are some things that they're asking you? They're asking you, did your mother suffer from this?
Yep.
And they list all of these ailments. Did your father suffer from this? And
Yep.
they list all of these ailments because they understand that there's some things that genetically you could be pre-exposed to.
Yep.
So they're doing their due diligence to be able to find out, because for all intents and purposes, people also forget that doctors, they call it a practice for a reason.
Yes.
They don't know it all either.
That's right.
They don't know it all. Now they just got a degree to practice on you.
Yep.
Yep.
And
So if you are attending, if you are going, and that's not to shy people away from going to see a medical doctor. They still a professional.
Yep.
They still
Yes.
know more than you.
Yep.
Okay. So if you try to use that as a not to go, the devil is a lie.
Listen.
You still need to go. Yeah.
And also understand that medical doctor, that clinical psychologist, they have a therapist and they have a doctor as well.
They sure do.
You better know it.
They sure do.
They need help too, to help your ass.
And some of them are on medication.
Yes.
Some of them have ADHD.
Yes.
Some of them have some of this very same. Even as a therapist, one of the things that they're trained as, my training is therapy, right? So even in that, you're trained to do your own work. So even though you're people helping, we still have to be aware of what triggers me, what areas where I'm susceptible to. Right, because some things is just a matter of awareness of recognizing, hey, this is an area where you got to kind of watch it because you can end up whatever. We're all, and this is why I say this, and people think I'm stupid when I say it, or like just they exclude themselves. We're all in the same boat. I don't care whether you're considering yourself the mentally healthy or not, because I've seen mentally healthy people contribute to mental illness. Right? You know how? Our judgment.
Yep.
When we look at mental illness and where this stuff really comes from, y'all, listen, 98% of our mental illnesses come from relational breaches.
Wow.
I'm going to say it again. About 98% of our mental health issues come from relational breaches of some type, including schizophrenia.
Wow.
Schizoaffective disorder. All of these. So there's the genetics. We got the genetics. But this is when we're starting to talk about the environmental things.
Yeah.
You are blessed today in America if you ain't affected by all of this environment.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Listen, y'all, I'm gonna take a quick second, bring the show. Listen, if you are enjoying this conversation, make sure you like, you're sharing, tag a friend to join. Make sure you like us on YouTube and Facebook at Robe Chronicles. Definitely want you to follow us there. If you want to be a part of the show, if you want to render a topic, please do so by emailing us at robechronicles@gmail.com. And listen, follow my brothers on Facebook and YouTube. Go follow David at Official David Mass on Facebook and Instagram. And my other brother, Leanza, on Instagram. Please, please, please go follow these people because they do some amazing, amazing things. And you don't want to miss out because these brothers be on the move. They definitely be on the move. So I seen a comment, y'all, that I want to bring up is from Demetrius that can kind of keep us going. What do you do if the support doesn't help?
find a different level of support.
Mm.
Find a different level of support that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
That's the
same
hard
thing may not work for me that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you find that works for you, that soothes you, not coddles you, but actually soothes you into a place where you don't have to immediately react to any and everything as a man. One
Yes.
of the things that I love to do, like one of the side effects to antiretroviral therapy is insomnia. So I have literally not been able to get more than 4 hours of sleep for over a decade. So imagine if people are saying David is, because some people have a very different experience of me, and I
Yeah.
am aware of the experience that they have of me, right? So if they're saying, "Oh, David's so mean," and "Oh, he's so harsh," and it's probably because David's sleepy.
Yeah.
It's probably because David's mentally drained because he's had to work and be alert for 16 hours in a day and not sleeping the other 8
Mm.
fully. Imagine how many other people are trying to go through life the same way.
And
It
that's
may not be what you think it is
yeah.
all the time. It could be something
Yes.
completely separate from what you believe.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, so one of the things that when I say find a different level of support, for me, I know that I have to have a sleep regimen.
Yeah.
Like for me, that I literally have to completely turn the phone off, turn the television off, completely relax my mind because I'm a creative too. I'm a musical director as
Mm-hmm.
well. So my mind is always going. So I used to try to fall asleep. Even this stemmed back even from when I was a kid. I used to listen to music at night to go to sleep, right? Even as a kid, even as a teenager. But my problem was that I didn't understand is because I'm a musician, the music
Keeping
that
you
I
activated.
listened to, it kept me activated because I would listen to music that in a familiar radio station. So every song that came on, I knew.
You're
So then I
singing.
would start to sing. And
Mm-hmm.
so even though so if I'm singing it, that means I'm not sleeping.
Right.
So I literally had to change my frame of thought as an adult to say, okay, you got to listen to instrumental music that don't really trigger you in that way, to make you try to create, to try to sing, to try to learn. Just get you some music that calms you enough to lull you into a state of homeostasis. Homeostasis, please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Lamb. But it lull me into a place where I can actually go to sleep and stay there. Because most of the time, it's for me. I can go to sleep, but I can't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of us who are maybe watching and saying, "Well, I'm trying to live life and do this, and I can't turn my brain off." That's one of the major things that I hear and that I've said. My brain just keeps working. It just keeps working. It keeps working. Johnny, you are going to straight to hell for that lie, okay? Because what I do is I put my AirPods in because I know I'm married and I know that I don't necessarily need to disturb him while he's trying to sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that what works for me. So because when he's not here, ladies and gentlemen, I put it on the big stereo and fill
Yes.
the room
Mm-hmm.
with that. See, I knew the doctor would agree with me. So I'll fill the
Yeah.
room
Yeah.
with
And
the
listen,
ambient music and lighting. Oh, it's wonderful.
listen,
Isn't it heavenly?
Yes.
and when we go to visit, he to kick off his sleep to doze off, he watch CNN.
Puts me right on under.
uh,
Yeah.
okay, listen.
Because
So,
I
yeah,
ain't talking about nothing that ain't happened before.
so I got a
What I
good
got to pay
comment.
attention for?
I got a
Oh,
good
what's
comment I'm
that?
gonna put on the screen. This is actually from my dad.
Okay.
So he said, "So I believe everyone is bipolar. A person mode can swing quickly based on what Mr. Stockley said about the 98%."
So technically, we all have bipolar tendencies.
Hmm.
All of us, everybody do,
Mm-hmm.
of what would be considered bipolar tendencies. Now we don't have what bipolar one is when you get into that whole manic and psychosis and all that. But we all have tendencies for bipolar.
All
Yeah.
right.
But that some of that is just a part of our makeup. All right. So that doesn't necessarily move us into the mental illness of
Yeah.
bipolar, So, but yeah, he's right.
As to make that the difference between just it being that and being considered a disorder.
Yes.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. Being a disorder in which you actually need medication in order to regulate it. Because what we have, a lot of us, we have, if our things are right for the most part, if the chemicals and everything is right, or we have a certain level of personal agency, we can regulate. And that's the difference with a lot of this is we have the ability, when everything is intact, we have the ability to regulate. When it's not intact, people don't have the ability to regulate the way that they normally would. This is why they may need medication. They may need to, and it's not just medication, because sometimes really a lot of people don't necessarily need, a lot of people, I'm not saying don't go get your medicine. Sometimes it's nutrition. Sometimes it's just like figuring out what the nutrition is. What our brain needs is, I can't think of the word right now. Tryptophan is one of the things that produces serotonin in our brain. Yeah, we get that from bananas.
Wow.
So it's like, now I don't eat bananas, but but that is, it's our food God has given us what we need technically, but sometimes our bodies receive it a certain way or not. Like there may be blockages to it, so we have to have ways to replenish what needs to be there. And that's why I said too, a lot of times it's not people's fault that they are going through what they're going through, and we present it, we talk about it in a way as if it's their fault.
Yeah.
And that is what it there's this underlying shame, y'all. That's another core thing when we start talking about the spiritual level. And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religious. The spiritual level to which these things kind of transpire. Addictions. Shame is at the very root of addiction. Of addiction.
Sure is.
Which also is some of the other mental illnesses that's there. It's shame.
Yeah.
That's underneath this. And we live in a society that's shame ridden.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go back to two things, and then before we keep going, Kanita, my godmom, she said certain atmospheres can affect your mindset, and there are chemical imbalances that exist as well. Very, very true. Demetrius said, how would you determine if you are dealing with mental health versus self-diagnosis and identity behaviors as your personality?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. First one called self-diagnosis.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't
stay
do
off Google.
Right. Because listen, if you sit anywhere, I ran a mental health company for several years before I started to do my own practice, my own thing. And I could read through the DSM and give myself everything in it. Everything.
Everything. You identify with everything.
You can identify with everything. And again, we all have pieces of everything. And of course, there's criteria that make it, that make you have to qualify for those things. But I think when it really starts to affect your functioning, it's affecting your relationships, it's affecting your functioning, affecting the way, and you're just not feeling well, go see somebody.
Please.
Yeah.
Please go see somebody.
Yeah.
Because it could be some things going on and again, sometimes going to see somebody could just be your regular physician, because it might just be you're not eating right, and there's certain, we all have nutritional things that are going on, and we really need to figure out, what should I eat? Not necessarily what everybody else should eat. It's like, what should I eat for my body? And I wish we had better ways to get full blood work where they could just tell us, listen, David, this is what you need to eat. Forget everybody else's diet and everybody else's whatever.
Right.
This is what you need to eat for you based off of all of your numbers in your body. But
Kanita said again, all things are not medically rooted. Some things surface from what's beneath your surface and unacknowledged situations. Absolutely.
And I think that is where we can't forget to address that is where you do have to take some accountability and responsibility. Because once you do notice that there is an issue.
What was that word again?
Accountability.
The A word.
You have to be able to take accountability and take responsibility when you do realize that there is an issue with you or someone else that is not quite right. Do something about it. Be in the position to actually be able to do something about it. because it will not go away on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It will not go away on its own. Not
Yeah.
if it's something that needs to be treated, but you
Yeah.
won't know that if you don't get a proper and thorough, like Leandra said, diagnosis and a full exam of what's actually going on, and then knowing what's actually in the toolbox or the realm of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
is another issue that so many of us don't really know. We don't know how to get our hands on the right information that, like Leanne said, even if it's nutrition, if it's something that we need for what will work best for us. And some of us have tried many things that
Mm-hmm.
have worked. Some worked for a little while because we stopped working it. Not that it stopped working for us. We
We
stopped
We
working with
stopped
it.
working.
good,
Mm-hmm.
Bill. That's good.
So if
Yeah.
we get something that actually does work, I was talking to Wes and Leanne a couple of, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Was telling you
Yeah.
about something that has actually worked for me that I'm actually trying out actively right now that is helping me with my insomnia, helping me with the daily anxiety that I experience working a 9 to 5 job, because it's not as hard, or it's not as hard for some who think it's easy, and it's not as easy for some that think it's hard. But you do have to find a balance. It
Mm-hmm.
really is life, and everything in it is all about balance.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was introduced to this thing, I was like, what is this thing talking about? It was literally saying there is a way, there's a tool, there's a resource, there's a piece of technology that is non-invasive. You don't have to get surgery to do it, for it to actually change the way and reprogram what's going on up here in your
Yeah.
mind. And so I said, well, I want to know a little bit more about that. So what I did was I did my research on what the technology actually was, and it's literally blasting your anxiety and stress levels up to 70% within 30 seconds. And
Wow.
I said, no way, no way, that can't be possible, that can't happen. I said, okay, I really want to do it and see if it works, because I don't want to talk about it if it don't actually work for me. To be able to have it as a resource and a tool for somebody else that could possibly help them. So what I did was I got the technology, learned about it, read about it, and actually started using it. And it's called Blast for a reason. The name of the technology itself is called Touch Points. And so they call it Blast, BLAST, which stands for bilateral alternating stimulation tactile. Blast. So on both sides of the body, there's a gentle pulse that regulates your brain waves. So it's not to say that you won't have stress, you'll just be programmed to handle it differently.
Mm.
We all have this mechanism, and Leanne and I were talking about this yesterday, that fight, flight, or freeze when
Mm-hmm.
something happens. Like those triggers that I was talking about earlier, when we go into that mode, we either do one or the other of the three. Either we fight, we run away, we just stop in our tracks because we're triggered at something. But this technology, I'm telling you, I've gotten so many messages that come to me throughout a day that I have to process quickly. And the anxiety of that, if I'm not careful, will overtake me to a realm that I shouldn't be in. And I know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually I started wearing the technology maybe a couple of days ago, and I'm already feeling the effects.
Yeah.
Already feeling the effects. Already my sleep pattern has changed. For the first time in years, my alarm clock wakes me up instead of me waking up before it.
Yeah. I
I
love
was
it.
like, oh my God, what is this? So again, it's called touch points. And just because I am here and I'm saying this is something that works for me, I already cleared this with my brother because I want to be able to help you too. So if you are interested in this technology, go to www.thetouchpointsolutions.com, and at checkout, just type in the word stress. I guarantee you'll thank me later. There's a discount for you.
Y'all
They'll
definitely,
throw them in there for you.
y'all.
Yeah.
This has been so good. I'm gonna end on this last question, and because I feel like this is going to be a definite part two to this.
Yeah,
It needs to be.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
absolutely. But what are ways? And I'm gonna give you one way. What are ways men can offer one another safe spaces to let out our pain and frustration? So I'm gonna tell you one way that David
A
Leanne.
sex party. Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm married, baby. I'm married, friend.
Married people have
Oh, I'm
sex
married,
parties.
baby. Listen, no, sir.
Married people have
Get me
sex
caught up.
parties.
Lies you tell. Mm-mm.
Oh my God!
You
Listen,
trying to get some folks messed up right up through him.
listen. I'm trying to tell you, listen. So listen, one way for me is Shameless Pub when we did We the People Men show. And for me, it was an outlet because I was with other like-minded men from different walks.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody
Yeah.
didn't live the same lifestyle. Everybody didn't, have the same occupation. We are all in different. And that was for me a time, although we were talking about issues, that was a time to commune with brothers, right? And that
Yeah.
helped me. So, like, what are some ways that we can offer men safe spaces? And I feel like on the next time on part two, we're gonna probably bring on some people. Maybe my dad, David, your dad, somebody else, another man,
Trust me, they would love it.
and just have this conversation like on the mental health as Black men. I think it'll be great. But like, what are some ways that y'all think Black men can offer each other those spaces to let out their pain and frustration?
It sounds like a cliche, but it's so true in this instance. In order to have a friend, you have to show yourself friendly.
Yeah.
People have to know that you have created the space that's safe. And they have to feel it at the onset. They have to feel it from the beginning. Men are very intuitive creatures. So if we don't get a good vibe off of you in the beginning, we ain't gonna mess with you. And that's especially with another guy. We ain't gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
So if you are like Kiero Johnson said, I feel it's hard for Black men to find a safe space without being judged. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we step outside of what we're going through, how we're connected to whatever we're hearing from our brother, and actually just listen to them.
Yeah.
Don't offer anything but an ear. And it's okay to actually ask up front. As soon as the brother starts talking, like, hey, I want to be here and I want to make sure that I create the space for you to have with me. What am I listening for? Am I listening to just for you to have to share? Great. If you want my advice, that takes a different level of engagement and I have to listen differently to you. So it's okay to even ask that up front, like, hey, you want my advice? You want my opinion? And they'll tell you, like, let me tell me what you think about this. Guys do that all the time. Tell me what you think about this. And they'll go into it. That way you know, okay, you're listening for my feedback. But if they don't say that at all, then they really do just want you to listen and just be there.
Yeah.
There is a certain comfort level in just being there.
Yeah.
Not having to say or do anything. Just be there and show up.
Mm-hmm.
Show up when it's necessary. Show up even when I tell my people all that all the time. I'm here if you need me, and I'm here if you don't.
Yep. Yep. I think that's so good. It's just offering that space to one, remember, like we human, right? We human. We're gonna go through things, and but I see you, like you said, I see you for who you are. I'm not judging you because we all got something, right? And
That's right.
we just sometimes just need an ear. Just need an ear.
Yeah.
So, y'all, oh my God, this has been amazing. This has been a great conversation. Y'all, it's definitely a part two coming because we didn't even hit all of the other questions, like not even the surface. But listen, Leanne said, like, if people, and David, since y'all work in that sector with mental health, if people are needing some help, where can they go? I know for me, if you need somebody to talk to, you can go to Leanne. Now listen, I told Leanne this yesterday. I'm gonna tell the people because I ain't scared to talk my shit. He come with a fee. All right.
A good one now.
He come with a fee. Because
Be prepared.
he has a master degree.
Huh?
A master degree.
Master.
from the southern region. But seriously,
and I can personally attest to his methodology of how he counsels you into a way that you get to figure out what's going on with you. He guides you through that path of discovery.
Yeah.
So if you are looking, if you are a guy, if you're a girl, if you're a couple, whichever one you decide to go with, I would highly recommend that guy down there, wherever he is on your screen, up there, over there, down there, up there, wherever he is, find him. If you need someone to actually talk to who will authentically listen and guide you without judgment.
Yes, there go his.
That's why I love him.
His website and his email. And if you reach out to him, he will send you an invoice. Amen.
Yep. and if I can't help you, I find somebody that can.
Listen,
this is, so it is what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, I'm so excited about this conversation, and I can't wait for part 2. You know what? We're gonna find us about gonna get Jerome, my daddy Jerome. We're gonna go ahead and get Daddy David on here, and we're gonna find us another man on here. We're gonna go ahead and get the fellas on. So we're just gonna have to get their dates and we're gonna bring them on the show and
the brethren.
And
the southern brethren.
And tell them the prerequisite of being on the show is that they got to come robed up.
They got you got to come with your robes. Speaking of robes, listen, I want to say a very specific. Let me tell you something. It means something when somebody when people believe in you and believe in what you're doing and see the value in what you're doing. Because see, some people are here joking Jesus, but
they doing what now? Wait, free. Say that one more time.
They joking Jesus.
Child, I thought you said they choking them. They don't do Jesus like that. They joking Jesus. What he ever did to you belong to you?
They joking Jesus, fool.
Joking.
But no, I want to give a big shout out to 2 people who are near and dear to my heart. I will not go into detail of how near and dear to me and why, but Dr. Sherry L. Blake and Mr. Johnny L. Lester Massey for blessing me with my first luxury robe. As y'all can see, it's from the house of
luxurious.
Don't listen. When I have this on, don't talk to me, don't call me, email me only during business hours only. Do you hear me? When I have on this here robe, email me only, because I will not answer the phone. But no, I appreciate Johnny, Dr. Sherry. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is like helping me brand and build this thing up. And like, I greatly appreciate the both of you and David too, because he probably had a hand in this as well. So this is a good bit. Oh my God, y'all, listen, this has been an amazing show. Again, if you haven't followed us, you don't follow us, take a moment to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Robe Chronicles. Again, if you would like to be a part of the show, you want to have a topic, please email us at robechronicles@gmail.com. And please follow my brothers. Follow David
at Official D Mass on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm sorry, my watch just started talking to me. Sorry, David. I was in the middle of that.
She will do it.
She will do it. Follow my brother David on Facebook and Instagram. And you see his handle at Official.
That's why you need a handle.
Right. I'm coming down. Hold on, sir. And then you follow my brother Leander on Instagram. And that is his handle. Listen, sir. Listen. We don't do Android, okay? Oh my God. Listen, we love y'all. We are out of here. See y'all next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.